Hello, it's me now. And today I'm just going to go through my 40k Necrons. I did have Death Guard, but I sold them, so I can't go through them. I'm just going to go through each of the units that I've got. I've just got a handful of them out. Just to have a little talk through, talk about how they are currently. Because, I've been to a few tournaments, nothing much, not bragging. Didn't do very well. And then the other pile of shame over there. And I was just going to say, just go through my little box and what I take. So going through the units, I'll start off at the other end. I won't start the HQs. I'll start with my heavy support. So my two heavy support choices, because I haven't got the Doomsday Arcs, I've got good old Canoptic Doomstalker and Locust Heavy Destroyer. Now both have seen points decrease. Both are fairly good. I do think the meta is going more towards these small little guys, bringing a squad of them with the cheaper Locust Destroyers, using them as a bit of a shield for these guys. Obviously, these guys do have their build where you bring 3 of them and you bring the Canoptic Control Node on the Technomancer to boost them up. And then you can also bring the Triok Stalker. That is an option. But I do think it's definitely going more their way. And I will say the problem is these Doomstalkers have the same issue that the Doomsday Arc has, which is that sometimes you get 5-6 shots and it's happy days, and then the rest of the time you get 1 shot and it misses straight away, which really limits it. So overall, I do think it's going more towards the Locust Destroyers. I think they're just going to be a better pick overall, and you're just going to get more value out of them on a more consistent basis. Moving on to moving on to fast attack. I'll put this guy aside. Scarab. He's the only fast attack I own. I don't own any other fast attack options besides Scarabs. I just haven't invested much money into him. I ended up getting to one point where I was going to be meta chasing, and I just pulled the brakes off. I was like, "Ooh, this is going to cost quite a bit. I don't want to be chasing this constantly." So I do have quite a lot of Scarabs. I think I've got about 12, 15 bases of Scarabs. Usually, in terms of my lists, I like to take 2 squads of 3 of them. And especially if you're running Eternal Expansion, the Eternal Expansionistic options for the custom rules, they're just so good for holding on sec, especially on that turn 2. They're just vital just to gain those early amount of points, which I always feel like I need because I feel like I throw it away later on. 10 inches of movement, they're just perfect. They're just cheap and you can throw them away and it doesn't matter because they've already earned you your points by then generally. In terms of troops, so I've got my 3 options at the front. So I've got my 2 warriors. So you've got the Guls Flayer, Guls Reaper, and you also got the Immortal. I've only got them with Guls Blasters because Tesla so far hasn't owned up to hasn't been as good as it was in previous editions. So I've just got Guls Blasters at the moment. I've got 10 of the Immortals. Altogether, I've got 40 warriors, 20 with the Reaper, 20 with the Flayer. Personally, the Reaper is absolutely the better option. It's strength 5, minus 2 AP. Having the 12-inch range is quite damaging, but Veil of Darkness is pretty much a go-to on these guys, and there's plenty of other ways to get them up close so you can get them within range. And they pretty much obliterate whatever they touch, especially when you've got a squad of 20. In terms of the Guls Flayer ones, a lot of times I end up taking just a squad of 10, which I always fight myself over a squad of 5 for the Immortals or a squad of 10 for the warriors with the flayers, even though the points are completely different. Sometimes you just need to fill out a battalion, for example, because I find I go quite heavy on elites and characters. Now with the Immortals, you either really take them in squads of 10 or you take them in squads of 5. You rarely do in between. And you can get quite a bit of decent fire, but the warriors with the Reapers, they're just going to be your mainstay. And Immortals do really suffer from not having the boost that the warriors do. Off the top of my head, I want to say warriors are 1 wound. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I do want to say warriors are 1 wound, and that's where it really, the Immortals are 1 wound, sorry, and that's where it really hurts them because with the warriors, you've got the bonus to your reanimation, so you're always going to get quite a few come back, and the Immortals just don't have that ability, Being strength, toughness 5 is quite good. But yeah, warriors are just always going to be a mainstay in terms of troop choices. Now moving on to my elite. So might as well start with these guys. Scorpex. They're an absolutely winning model in this edition. Came out in the Indomitus, and they've just proven a mainstay ever since. Now, the amount of attacks they get out, and also how cheap they are now. They've just gone down 5 points each. So now just to bring 3 of them is 90 instead of netting you 105 points. They're absolutely cheap. They have a lot of synergy. And Necrons overall are very strong in terms of their close combat potential. And with the cheaper these guys get, that's only going to get better. There's tons of ways to boost them. You bring the Chronomancers, give them reroll charges and vulnerable saves. Now their core, you can Veil of Darkness them, which probably not going to do. You're probably going to have them advance up more, but it's an option. And now you can get them down striking on 2s. There's just tons of options. You give them rerolls. You've got the natural inbuilt reroll as well for the wounds, and then if you've got a destroy HQ, you can give them that reroll 1 on the hit. They're just golden, really. You're always going to want to bring them. Generally, a squad of 6 is going to be a bread and butter unit you're always going to want. Now, Flayed ones, again, these got boosted quite recently. Like the Scorpex, they became core. The squads of 20, they can chuck out an absolute sheer ton of attacks with lots of AP. Not very high strength, but the sheer volume, you're absolutely going to get killing stuff. What you really want to question is, do you want something that can deep strike and only act in CQB? It is quite flimsy overall, I guess, if you're not taking a lot of them, compared to something like the Scorpex. That's going to be something that you're going to have to decide on your playstyle and what secondaries that you want to go for. Now with my ones, as you can see, this isn't a GW model. So what I did was I had warriors left over. So I cut them up, cut some bits out. You can see like the little knife hand here. That was just from the axe bit on a Guls flare. Cut that off, extended the hands a little bit. Made them all a bit lurch, made them lurch a little bit. I tried to adjust because they are monopose models. I tried to move them around, tweak them a bit, just to the point where they're about to tear, just to make them look hunched and dishevelled. And then I put PVA glue on them in the mic. Well, I put PVA glue in the microwave, I think it was for about 30 seconds. And it gets quite tacky and stringy. And at that point, you can layer it on. And then when it comes to painting, just paint it up, get a nice technical paint. If it's Blood for the Blood God, and just get it all on those points. And they just look really nice. Oh, I've only got 5 of them just because I only made 5 as a little hobby project. And bringing forward, got good old Lich God. Again, I think personally that these are a bread and butter unit as well, just like their Scorpex over here. Some people might disagree and go more heavily on Scorpex, which I do agree. I think Scorpex have more output. But in terms of keeping them on the field and how much you need to invest and support them, Lich Guard's always going to be there. I haven't seen anybody try and run the War Scythe variant. That would be interesting with things like Veil of Darkness and coming down from the Night Scythe and the options you've got there in terms of stratagems. There's potential play of the War Scythe variant, but the shield and sword, or sword and board, as people call it, is absolutely going to be a mainstay. You got -3 AP, strength 6 with the sword, and you got 4+ invulnerable save, 2 wounds each. It's they're just golden. They just take so much firepower to get rid of, and in close quarters, they can dish out a fair bit, and there's ways to boost them as well. You can give them an extra attack with a stratagem, and then if you're Novok, you can then double that, and you can just get so many bonuses. I really do think I can't remember last time I played a game and I didn't take a full squad of 10. I think they're just quite very good. Going on, you can see at the back I've got my nice broken Triok Stalker. I've never used him in a game, and he's an absolute nightmare to store, as you can see by the fact he's in pieces. But yeah, if I was going to use him, I think I'd use him more with the Canoptic Doomstalkers. Again, just if I can pin down whatever I really want to shoot that turn, hit it. It gives that +1 to shoot as long as Triok Stalker hits. And then it will give that +1 to Canoptic Doomstalker and anything else that I want to shoot at with it. Yeah, it's an okay unit. It gets some fairly damage-free attacks in close quarters, but you're not going to be getting any of your bonus faction rules because it's a Triarch unit. So you just gotta take that how it comes, really. Is it always going to be a unit you want to bring? No, it's going to be quite a niche choice. Now going on to my Catan. So I have Nightbringer, Void Dragon, and then I have a proxy Transcendent Catan model, which I just got off eBay. So I haven't used a Transcendent Catan one in game. And there's a tournament coming up I'm thinking about going to, which I might take the Transcendent Catan and a Nightbringer, or just a Transcendent Catan. I'm thinking mix it up because people are quite used to facing off against those two, and with the Transcendent you can bring the Fractured Personality, so it can be random at the start of each turn. So it could make it quite interesting. And you've got the Void Dragon at 350, Nightbringer at 370, and then the Transcendent at 270. So it is quite a difference. So you're looking at a 100-point difference between Transcendent and Nightbringer, which isn't too bad. If you want to go cheap and you just want something to absorb damage and be a pain. So I said I haven't used Transcendent yet, but we'll see. The Void Dragon is very much worth it, and it's at a very good price point for what it does. I will say and again, Nightbringer, even at 370 and being 20 points more than the Void Dragon, again, that's at a very good price point. It just melts through anything. Which, in terms of horde dealing capability, I would say that's what the Void Dragon struggles with, and often you can get bogged down by things like, for example, you play Death Guard, they just need to bog you down with a unit of Poxwalkers or more, and it's just an absolute nightmare. Well, Nightbringer's definitely got more leeway with that, and it'll be easier for him to get out. I will say the main difference of why you'd potentially want to choose Nightbringer over Void Dragon is just simple, the model size. Nightbringer hasn't been updated. It's a lot smaller. It's a lot easier to hide on the tabletop. And you look at the Void Dragon, absolute beautiful, magnificent model. But again, you can pretty much see it all the way from across the board. You're rarely going to be able to hide it fully. Though it is nice with the Void Dragon having its special rules trigger on vehicles, doing the extra damage, and always inflicting ulterior things. That's quite nice. Especially, I feel like I've always struggled against vehicles, so I've always lent more towards the Void Dragon. Though definitely in some games, you can see people's fear when you put up Nightbringer, and they really do struggle to deal with it. And it definitely does slice for anything. That's just something that you've got to consider in your playstyle and what you want to do. Now, again, these don't benefit from any faction special rules, just because they are Catan shards. Additionally, on a side note of this Scorpex, you can also bring this little guy. I actually can't remember what he's called. We'll just call him Tim. You can bring Tim. He can bring him along, and he can boost the Scorpex. On a roll of D6, on a 1 he kills 1. However, on everything else, he gives them 1+ attack and 1+ strength, which is quite nice. I wouldn't always bring him though, just because for 15 points, he's not always worth it. And in terms of units, he counts as his own unit, as far as I'm aware. If I am wrong, please quote me on it. But as far as I know, he counts as his own unit. So he has to stay within like 6 inches of the Scorpex at all times, or a destroyer cult model. And if he's outside of that, then he automatically gets destroyed. So you got to bear in mind that he is an extra unit on top of your total unit count. So in secondaries where you got to try and kill more full units than your opponent, it's a very easy score for them. Now going on to my various HQ options over here. I've got my nice little Lord in the back, nice little old metal Lord. Don't see much play with him. To be honest, quite a weak choice in my opinion. But in some matchups and in some playstyles, he might be what you're looking for. Again, Royal Warden, if you've got a specific game plan where you're going to be putting across quite a mass amount of infantry and stuff that doesn't want to be tied up, it could be perfect for you, but I haven't seen much play. Now, Overlord, bog standard one just from Indomitus. Bog standard, good for filling out a battalion or a HQ slot. And again, with the Scorpec, is an option. But overall, I think the Scorpec suffers in comparison to the Locust Lord in front of me on the flying base. The Scorpec Lord is brutal and nasty, but I just don't think it has the hitting power overall due to the options that you can bring with it. It's very tied into its own kit, and there's very few ways to adjust it. Now, in terms of my top picks for HQs, I've got my 4. I'll bring them in front. So you've got Chronomancer. You know, for what he does, give him reroll charge and 5+ invulnerable saves. I find he's an absolute always pick. My one is a custom one, so I took the Plasmancer model. I just added on some spare bits from my Void Dragon kit and from other bits, just to make him look all goofy and like a bit of a space wizard. That's robot as well. And just to make him look different, and then that was my proxy. Yeah, I find he's a auto pick when you bring Scorpex generally, just to give them that more mainstay and make them even that more deadly. Additionally, you could use these guys with Lich God. As I was saying, if you want to bring the War Scythes, it would give them a 5+ invulnerable save and reroll charges, so it is an option. Now, Locust Lord. Now, the reason why I think this guy is better than the Scorpec, he's cheaper, he can fly, and just the amount of kit options you can bring. You know, you can bring him with an Orb of Resurrection for infantry support. You can bring him with the Phylactery, so instead of healing 1 wound each turn for living metal, he can heal deal 3, which is incredible for an absolute beat stick of a Lord. Now again, the options, you can bring him with the War Scythe, you can bring him with the Staff of Light. Personally, I think my favourite option at the moment is bringing him with the Staff of Light. As even though he hits on 3s, he's automatically re-rolling 1s to hit and then re-rolling 1s to wound. Any 6s to hit with the Staff of Light transfer into two additional hits or 2 hits total. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think Staff of Light is a pretty nasty pick for him. You know, overall, you know, you bring Novok, you can give him the Warlord trait, and there's other Warlord traits you can give him, Honourable Combatant, and just other ones that are just really good for supporting your Destroy Cult units. I think he's quite a good pick. Technomancer. This guy certainly has gone up in my books compared to what I use him. I think I'm going to end up using him a lot in concert with the Guls Reaper warriors. You know, give him Veil of Darkness and just let him go into the enemy's front line or the back line with those Dark Reaper. Oh, I'm going to say it again. Guls Reaper warriors. You know, he's healing D3 a turn. You can pay another CP to resurrect D3, and you can pay another CP to resurrect another D3. It's just perfect. Now again, you can also use them to support Scorpex now, and you can use them to support Lich Guards anyway. But Lich Guard and Scorpex, those are also 2 options. So you could potentially bring back 2 Scorpex or 2 Lich Guard a turn, which is quite nice. For a price point, they're not too bad. You know, you could get them under 100 points. Again, you could go Voltaic Staff with this guy as well, but personally, I'd leave it for the Locust Lord, or what I'm about to go on to now, which is the Katakan Command Barge. Now, Katakan Command Barge, I think, is an absolute mainstay in a HQ slot, unless you bring in named characters or a very specific playstyle. You know, having fly, being a vehicle, it's all very nice. Again, bringing Staff of Light, very good on them. So you're hitting on 2 straight away. It's automatically, generally, you're always going to get a 6 every time you roll with bringing the Voltaic Staff option for the Relic. I find generally Enduring Will is the best Warlord trait for the Katakan Command Barge, just to help keep it in and give it a bit more survivability. I've also, one of the key things to note is the size of it. Oftentimes I forget when using the flying base that you're not measuring to the base, you're measuring to the model being a vehicle. So for example, playing against Harlequins, for example, leaving the little ram at the front poking out in front of your line, a Harlequins player will just move their bikes up, right, so it touches just the edge of it, and they'll be able to get past your lookout circle. So I would bring that up. You know, with these guys, you can bring Resurrection Orb, which is always a good choice, especially if they're going to have support and infantry. In terms of the little sort of tournament thing I wanted to talk about, so here we've got my Indomitus box. Ignore the big pile of models behind. I've just unpacked everything. You'll see, just the Indomitus box, and then what I've done is I've just put a plastic tray in it. Now I found this was very good to take the tournament, as I didn't have tray. You know, you see lots of people with magnetized plastic framework. Originally, I was taking a case and then putting it all in there, but I found an absolute nightmare to put it all back in and take it out each round. So I found just taking a tray and just separating it up into little sections. I found that worked for me. I would be interested to hear what you guys have managed and how you prefer to take your stuff. So, thank you for listening if you've lasted this long, and I hope to see you again. Bye.